So we are very excited to have Conrad Saam on the line with us right now. He's going to tell everyone about 33 ways to make your dollars stretch further in marketing for your law firm. So Conrad, first off, I want to thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah, great to be here. I'm jealous of your palm trees in the background. We have like drizzly, misery Seattle weather. I'm not wearing flannel, but like Nirvana's in the background. We've got the coffee ready to go. Yeah, I'm jealous of your palm trees.
Anytime when you come to Miami, just let us know and you can come here and visit us. All right, so to start things off, I'll give everyone a little bio about ourselves. I'm also going to personally give you a few tips on how to market your own firm based on the years of experience I have across multiple companies. So just to introduce Conrad, we have on the phone Conrad Saam. He was the head of marketing for Avvo's legal directory, and he helped spearhead its growth without spending $1 on advertising. He's been featured in USA Today, the New York Times, Huffington Post, and is now the founder of Mockingbird, an agency delivering advanced online marketing exclusively for the legal industry. So I'm going to jump to the next slide. So Conrad, I have your bio up on the screen over here. So tell us a bit more about yourself and why you started your own marketing agency.
Yeah, I mean, for me, when I started at Avvo, that was back in 2006, before it was anything, before it was a directory or Q&A or anything at all, and we were really figuring stuff out. What I found was back in 2006, nobody knew what SEO was, and I used to do this presentation. The first presentation I ever built was called The Death of the Yellow Pages. And it was trying to convince lawyers that people weren't using the Yellow Pages anymore to find attorneys, that they were really increasingly turning to the internet. Which today, that sounds like an absolutely ludicrous concept to actually have to sell. But this is only a decade ago. And so I did a lot of training with lawyers about how SEO works and how PPC works and how your website should work. This is a long time ago. I mean, relatively long time ago. I found that what I really liked was working directly with the attorneys. And so that's why I spun out and created Mockingbird. So we only work with law firms. And part of what we do, and this is really what you're going to get out of the presentation today, is we really look for the cheap ways to be successful in marketing, right? And we don't necessarily believe that, in fact, we're going to come back to the Yellow Pages. There's a slide on the Yellow Pages about where it actually does work. But there are cheap ways to do this, and there are a lot of ways to do it yourself. And my overriding bias is that law firms, lawyers in general, don't like saying I don't know or I don't understand or please explain this to me. And so they get kind of steamrolled with technical jargon, and frankly, they waste a lot of money. And so what I want to cover today are some of the places where you can see marketing as an investment because these are cheap, easy things to do, or things to avoid where you're essentially, blowing your kid's college fund on something that will never work anyway.
Right. So can you give us a little bit of a background on how you spearheaded Avvo's growth without spending $1 on marketing, or are we going to cover that in a little bit?
No, I mean, yeah, that's my baby. I love SEO. Like, SEO is, if I could do nothing else ever, it would be SEO. I love SEO. I love how it works. I love the concept. I love how it changes. And at Avvo, like, they brought me on as the marketing guy, and it was literally me and a bunch of developers and Mark Britton sitting around like, what are we going to do? We had a very small venture capital round that we had to make sure was going to last for a while. So we couldn't go we threw out pay-per-click, right? Because we didn't want to become dependent on that. We frankly couldn't afford it, even back in 2006 and 2007. And it was like, okay, if we can get really good at search. Bill Gurley was one of the VC guys, and Bill Gurley's phrase for SEO is free beer. It's like getting free beer. So if you can get really good at search, you can win. And that's what we did. And back in the day, no one was doing this really well, with the exception of Tim Stanley, who initially founded FindLaw and now runs Justia. He knows this stuff inside and out. And pretty much within a year, we were the best SEO legal company out there because no one else was doing it well. No one knew what it was, right? Now I don't even tell people that I do SEO anymore because all they want to do is talk about canonical tags and H1s and Google this and Penguin that.
Yeah.
So I don't even want to have that conversation at a cocktail party. But back in the day, I had to explain the concept. My parents still don't get it, but so be it.
Okay, very cool. So tell us what's on the agenda for us today.
Yeah, so a lot of this is, I'm going to overly simplify this, but we've got 33 things, and I want people to be able to walk away with like 1 or 2 or 3 of these things that are like, hey, that's a really good idea, I should try that. And it's really 33 things that are either really effective and cheap or really ineffective and expensive, right? So like do those and don't do those, and you're at least moving in the right direction. And I'll use it, well, we'll get into the examples in a bit, but it's really focusing on how can I spend money wisely to stretch my marketing dollars, and what should I not spend money on? And my big picture perspective here is your marketing is not a cost. It's an investment. If it's a cost, why the hell are you doing it? Right? You are throwing away your kid's college fund. It's an investment. And so you need to spend your money wisely. And any investor will tell you, I mean, I really use the investment analogy, buy stuff cheap, do the stuff that works really well, and do lots of that, and don't do the stuff that's really expensive and doesn't work. Like, it's really basic, but you know, take that stock market concept, that's what we need to do with marketing, and find, I hate to stretch the analogy, find a portfolio of marketing tactics that are cheap and effective as opposed to expensive and ineffective.
Okay, makes sense. So I think we're going to start it off. So everyone that's watching right now, we're going to do a quick poll. So if you're watching on GoToWebinar, please flip to the screen. We're going to launch the poll right now to ask, where are you currently advertising today for your law firm? Is it Google and Bing ads? Is it Facebook ads? Is it Yelp? Is it Avvo? Or nowhere? It looks like, Conrad, take a guess where majority are coming in right now.
I'm going to go with nowhere. I'm going to say 50% are at nowhere, and then number 2 is Google or Bing. And I bet there are a couple of people who are meddling with Facebook. And there's 2 or 3 people who've been paying Yelp for the last 3 years, but they don't know why. There you go.
You're
I'm pretty close.
Right. There you go. You know your stuff. Yeah. So it looks like majority of people on the call right now are advertising nowhere. So it looks like they're on the call listening in to see where they could advertise, where they could spend some money, or maybe not spend money and do better. So we're going to get started with the first thing, which is your websites. I know you're a big fan of WordPress like we are. I believe that your agency actually builds WordPress sites using WP Engine. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we run WordPress, and I would recommend everyone running WordPress. And I'll get on a quick concept of why. WordPress is essentially utilized by 95% of the web developers out there, and it puts you in control of your website. What you don't want, I'll use 2 kind of increasingly bad examples. What you don't want is to say, hey, we just added a lawyer, and now I have to go pay my agency, you know, $250 an hour to create a new page on my website for Bill the new lawyer, right? Because you don't have to do that. So you need to be able to be in control of your site like that. The second thing that's worse is if you are on a proprietary platform, you cannot fire your agency, right? So I want all of my clients to be able, they hold you hostage, right? And it's really expensive to move from a non-WordPress site on a proprietary platform to something else. We actually run, depending on the complexity of it, we add an additional $1,000 to $2,500 cost just to migrate something off of a proprietary platform, right? Because it's a pain in the neck. You need to be able to fire your agency, period. Now, the WP Engine side of this is the host that we use, and I would strongly recommend, go ahead.
No, I'm waving someone out of my office. Don't worry. No, we're live here.
So WP Engine is what's called a managed WordPress host, and it costs $29. And the way a managed WordPress host works, and there are a couple other ones out there, we use WP Engine, is it will automatically back up your site every night, right? It will automatically upgrade to the latest non-beta version of WordPress. And so one of the problems with WordPress is that it's frequently hacked because it's so ubiquitous. So you really need to make sure that you're on a really good, if you do get hacked, if we have a client who gets hacked, All we have to do is roll it back to the day before they were hacked, and now we fixed it in 10 minutes. If you can't do that, you have to rebuild your site. And so you're looking at $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 to do that. $29 a month for hosting. If you're paying more than $29 a month for hosting, you're getting taken for a ride.
Yeah. You know, it's funny that they do all this stuff, because for us, I know that we use, VaultPress to back up our site. We use another plugin to automatically update plugins. Like, we do so many things, but they do it all in one. That's pretty neat. I'll check them out. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they're great. They're fantastic.
So website costs, what is this graph we have here?
Yeah, so we hit on this just a little bit before. A lot of you guys are spending a lot of money on a website. And so what I did is we looked at, I think, the overall volume on here. There's something like 130 different websites plotted on here, both how long it took to create, as well as how much it cost, not what we charged, but if we had been charging kind of market rate at an hourly rate, what it would actually cost. And for the most part, for your Joe average law firm website, you're looking between $5,000 and $8,000, right? We've done them, a couple, like this one over here, up in the top left, up to $30,000. We've done crazy things. We've done huge migrations. We do all sorts of fancy stuff. But for a up-to-date, modern design website, you're really looking at $5,000 to $8,000, and you shouldn't be paying more than that. And the flip side to this is, some of you guys are paying for hosting that's like $400 or $500 or $600 or $800 a month. It's your website, right? You're getting taken to the cleaners, right? You just are.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Because the cost is $29, $25, $29.
Right. So, and a lot of agencies or a lot of website developers will be like, okay, we're not gonna hit you for $5,000 up front. It's just gonna be $800 a month. Right? I spoke to a lawyer the other day. They're paying $1,200 a month for their website. And I was like, well, what is that for? What do you get for that? We get a website.
Well, hold on. They also get, maintenance and edits if you want to change a few words. Good value.
Right. So be careful. A lot of you guys are getting taken to the cleaners here.
So let me ask you, so this is a chart of your website costs that you've compiled, or
this
in general?
A third of the data points are ours, and I also pulled in there 2 other agencies that should be like vicious competitors with me, but they're actually really close friends. And so I pulled in data from what I will call 3 very good agencies in the legal marketing perspective.
Got it.
And we just,
so it looks
we
like
just
majority of. So how long does it typically take to make a site? It looks like 50 to 100 days is the average.
Yeah. So we typically tell people to expect 8 weeks. Typically, the slowdown is on the client side, right? And the worst case scenario when you're building a website, I wrote a post along with this. One of the things that really adds cost and time to a website is a 9-person law firm where everyone has an opinion on what the website should look like, right? And that's where this that data point out here where it's over. It almost took us a year to launch the site. That's the case. It was 9 people weighing in on every shade of green that we had. So if you're building a website and you have multiple voices, you really should have one centralized figure who gets to make the decision.
Right. It'll move things faster. And then next up we have social media. So you recommend firing your social media consultant to save at least $1,000 a month, you're saying?
Yeah, so, and I want to be really clear on this. I've taken a lot of heat for kind of being the anti-social media guy. Social is very effective if done well, and if done correctly, and if done with the best intentions and the correct intentions. There are 2 things that do not happen with social media, and let me hit the one thing that works. It's great for networking, right? It's really great for, and I do this. This is how I believe you and I met, right? It's a great networking tool. But legal is very frequently a very private thing, right? I'm not going on to Twitter to ask who the best divorce lawyer is, and I'm not jumping on Facebook to tell everyone that I just got busted for my 7th marijuana possession. Who should I talk to, right? So that promise does not exist. It is a great networking tool. The other thing that my industry has lied to you about is that social media is in some way a ranking factor for SEO. It's just not. And my industry continues to tell you that because they want you to spend money on getting as many Twitter followers as you can, or Pinterest pins, or Facebook likes, or meerkats, whatever it is.
What do they call them? Social signals, right? Social signals?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting idea, and in theory, it could work. You get a lot of Facebook, likes behind a specific author. That means the author is very good, and therefore anything they write should do well on SEO. That concept was called AuthorRank, and it disappeared like 4 or 5 years ago. So it does not impact SEO, despite what you hear from a lot of agencies and marketers.
Got it. But do you still recommend that every law firm should have a Facebook page just for branding purposes? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, so Facebook is fantastic for your branded name search, right? Or for reviews, right? So use it for those things. Use it for the things that it's very good at, but don't use it from hey, if I get, and people will brag about, hey, I got 1,000 more likes on my Facebook page, right? Are they really looking to hire a DUI lawyer tomorrow? No, they're just not. It's just not a thing. It's just not what people do. And I'm sure there are edge cases to this, but we're spending a lot of money on social that doesn't do a damn thing.
A lot of time also. A lot of time with no ROI back.
Well, right. And so for me, if you're going to do social, and for me, social works really well because my sales cycle is long. I want to know key influencers. I can network. I have time to have Twitter running on my screen all the time. I log into Facebook all the time. Like, this is what I do. I'm a marketer. A lot of marketers think that what works for them as marketers works for their clients as law firms. And it's simply not true, usually.
Yeah. All right, so let's see. So SEO, your favorite topic. So
Love it.
Replace ranking reports, and this is free. This looks like a report from Google Analytics.
Yeah, and so what you should really do, and I would say at least half of my conversations with new prospects sounds like this. Hey, Conrad, we used to rank number 3 for, North Dallas personal injury attorney, and now we rank number 7, and I'm really concerned about this. So there's a couple reasons why ranking reports are useless. One is you're making the fallacious assumption that people are looking for what you are looking for, right? And just because you're looking for it doesn't mean that overall people are looking for that term. Secondly, a lot of the results that you get are personalized to you, right? So I recently wrote a post about a guy who was like, hey, I'm doing really well on SEO for the phrase law technology or legal technology, and when I do that search, I get my Google Plus profile, right? Well, the reason he's getting his Google Plus profile is because he's always on his Google Plus profile. And so he's getting his personalized result and thinking that everyone else is, and he's completely wrong. Why look at ranking reports? Yeah, go ahead.
So let me ask you, if you were to do an incognito search, that would be fine. You wouldn't see that, correct?
You probably won't see the personalized stuff, but it still isn't really giving you a perspective of what people are actually looking for. And whether or not that's generating. I mean, take this, right? I've got my phone, so I'm going to get different results if I'm on my phone at home, or if I'm on my phone down the street, or if I'm on my phone, in Miami, right? I'm going to get different results. So and Google's always changing these things, and testing things. So going in and doing a one-stop look at what happens right now, it's just completely immaterial to what's actually happening, especially when you have this free tool called Google Analytics. Google Analytics will tell you, are you getting traffic from SEO? And this is an example here. You can see where that traffic's coming from, right? You can actually look, is the traffic to my website, see, this is an example here of where it's coming from Illinois. And if I'm a lawyer in Washington and my traffic's all coming from Illinois, I have to say to myself, okay, now we have a problem, right? And it's nothing. This is really insightful, as opposed to when I Google my name, we do well or we don't do well. So ranking reports, it's totally misleading, unhelpful, unuseful.
But we also do recommend that every attorney listening should definitely install Google Analytics on their site right away to start tracking these results.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it's free, and it's reasonably easy to use.
Yep. And do you recommend for people listening, if they have a WordPress site, to get the Google Analyticator plugin, I think it's called?
Yeah, there's a lot of different plugins that will run, that will easily install Google Analytics on your site. Google Analyticator is one that we've used in the past. I believe, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Yoast has a setting. Yoast is kind of the big plugin that does a lot of kind of technical back-end work. I believe there's a piece on Yoast where you can actually plug in your GA code and you're done.
Yep. So for everyone listening, all you need to do is go to WordPress, go to your plugins, add a new plugin called Yoast, Y-O-A-S-T. You'll find it. It does SEO, it does Google Analytics, does sitemap submissions, it does everything for you. So I recommend it as well. And okay, this slide, you want to cover this?
Yeah, so this is what the way I really like to revisit the way we look at ranking reports. And this, as you can see in the top left-hand corner, we've segmented our traffic. We're only looking at organic traffic. So we've taken everything out other than search engine traffic. And then down at the bottom, you have the landing pages, right? So this tells me what pages on my site are actually generating traffic. And that's much more useful than me going to Google and trying to figure out whether or not we're doing well. This will tell you your actual traffic and the pages to which that traffic is coming to. So if you want to generate motorcycle accident cases and you want to see whether or not SEO is working for you, a very simple way to do that is look at your Google Analytics only with SEO traffic, and then look at your landing pages that have the word motorcycle in them. And if they're not getting any traffic, you're not getting any traffic for that motorcycle accident case. Yep. Fairly simple.
Very simple. Yep. And then fire your SEO company. Wow, people pay $15,000 a month for an SEO agency?
So our largest client pays us $35,000 a month.
$35,000.
Yeah.
Okay, and that includes PPC budget?
No, that is pure SEO work.
Okay, wow, interesting. Okay, and with that, link building, blogging, sponsored content.
With that, I mean, for those guys, you know, if they want me in a monkey suit, I'll frankly put on a monkey suit. But you know, the majority of our clients run somewhere between $2,000 and $8,000 a month. But you know, you can spend, if you're doing PI in a big city, you should expect to pay, you know, $10,000 to $20,000 a month to really crush it. So my bias here is there are a lot of SEO experts, mavens, gurus, ninjas, whatever you want to call them, that really don't know what they're talking about. And I would ask them some questions that indicate really how long they've been in the game and how experienced they are, and are they using advanced tools. And you don't need to know what these things are or who these people are, but these are what I would call, these are 4 questions that should separate the wheat from the chaff. And frankly, 9 times out of 10, you ask an SEO expert what Screaming Frog is, and they won't know. And if you're not using Screaming Frog, you're not doing SEO. Like, you're just not. It's just like you can't really do what we do without this tool. David Mim. If you don't know who David Mim is, you don't know enough about local to be good at local. If you don't know who David is. RankBrain was a crazy algorithm update that really hasn't had any impact on the legal industry. BuzzStream is a tool that we use to identify key influences for link building. There's a bunch of things, and I would like just dive deep on one thing in advanced SEO and learn enough that you can ask an agency, what is this? And if they don't know, like, if they haven't been to an SMX conference, right, they're not an SEO expert, right? If they haven't, just dig a little bit deeper and get smart enough so you can really vet these people, because there are a lot of people who say they're really good at this and they're not.
Are we going to get into Screaming Frog at all in this presentation, or no?
I don't think so.
Is it good? Do you recommend people use it? Yeah.
So Screaming Frog. It's like for the most part, it's going to be a little overwhelming, and you're not going to know what to look at if you're not in the industry. But I will tell you this: if you are nerdy and if you do want to get your hands dirty, and if you have a site with less than 500 URLs on it, and you want to see if you have 404 errors on your site, and if you want to see if you've done your H1s correctly or your title tags correctly, or if you have meta descriptions, or if you have duplicate H1s, it's a great tool to go in and mess around with and see if you find errors. And we almost always do, right? We almost always find errors on this basic on-page SEO that hasn't been done correctly. So if you want to get nerdy, download it. It's free. It's a UK product. They'll send you emails for the rest of your life. But it's a great way to get your hands dirty and check out your site. It's free so what they do is it's a free tool for up to 500 URLs. If you have a really big site,
that's a lot.
If only you knew someone who had a Screaming Frog account and could do a review of your site. If you have more than 500 URLs, you can call me. We'll happily look at it. But
okay,
cool. It's a good free tool to get your hands dirty on. But you will get emails forever.
Oh, they're trying to upsell you. All right, so this looks like Google Analytics report showing traffic doubling over the course of some time, week by week.
Yeah. So what I would do, again, if you're paying money for SEO in any sense of fashion, in any way if you're paying money for SEO, you should know if something's happening. And the best way to do that is, again, go into Google Analytics, segment by organic traffic, only look at organic traffic, look over the past year, or in this case, well, this is like a 2-year snapshot. And what you want to see is up and to the right. If you see a flat line, and I use the word flat line deliberately, a flat line is what happens when you die, right? You're paying for something and nothing's happening. So I would ask myself, why are we paying for this? Conversely, on the worst case scenario, if you see your traffic slow down to the right, it means your competitors are surpassing you and you are less effective on the web than you were before, despite the fact that more and more people are looking on the web for legal help. And so this is like a really easy way, and it's really insightful. You can see that, like, these guys, up until July of 2015, they were doing nothing, right? And then all of a sudden they engaged with an agency, and you see slow up and to the right. Actually, this is slow. Nice. This is pretty impressive growth, but this is what you want to see, up and to the right. If you're paying for it and nothing's happening, why are you paying for it?
So technically, a lot of attorneys listening in aren't so tech savvy. If they're hiring an agency, the agency should be giving them monthly reports, correct?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, yes, the agency should be giving them monthly reports. But I will tell you this, and I especially mean this as it goes to advertising partners. Don't trust your advertising partners to tell you how well they are doing. Get a modicum of understanding of how Google Analytics works, and this is where, like, you can get really nerdy, you can get really deep on this stuff. I believe that if you are paying $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 a month with an agency, you should invest in yourself enough knowledge to evaluate how they are doing, as opposed to letting them tell you how they are doing. Because most, especially advertising partners, will overstate their effectiveness as opposed to understate. Right? So I think.
Do you recommend? Yeah, sorry, go.
No, go ahead.
Do you recommend that if someone's going to spend this kind of money with an agency, they don't care about how much traffic they get or whatever. They care about results, obviously. Do you recommend they put goals and targets? Like, I want this many calls coming in, I want this many emails, this many contact forms. Is that a better way to do it?
Yeah, I think it is the right way to do it. One of the things that, like, let me give an easy example. Impressions, right? We've generated X number of impressions, or lookups, or whatever it might be. Like, you can have an impression. So let me use an extreme example. And this happens all the time in the online marketing world. An impression counts, right? Depending on who's reporting and how they're reporting on that impression. That could be you have had at least 1 pixel of an ad loaded at the bottom of a page that no one ever sees, right? That can be an impression. Right? So why are we looking at that number, right? And that 1 pixel isn't going to generate a phone call. So my overriding bias, and there may be slides, we get to this, but you need to know ultimately how many clients is this generating, right? And the number of clients, you get a phone call, you have a form fill, or you have a chat. That's it. Right? That's how people contact attorneys. Some people are using text, but 99% of the times you're one of those 3. And so that's how you should evaluate the effectiveness of your spend, as opposed to things like impressions or lookups or click-throughs, because I could get a ton of traffic from Uzbekistan and tell you that we're doing really well, right? But they're not
and show
calling
the
you to
chart
hire
going
you.
up to the right. Yeah.
Totally, up and to the right, baby, up and to the right, except they're from China, right? Or as Mr. Trump would say, China. So, you need to look at the things that matter. And this is where you go from looking at marketing as an investment instead of a cost. And if you're looking at things like impressions or Facebook likes or whatever it might be, you're not looking at it as an investment because it's not really talking about, are these people turning into clients?
Right. My next slide is actually one of my favorites because we use this all the time. So if you're watching the webinar, definitely flip to the screen. You want to write down this website. It is very helpful. It's pingdom.com, but you go to tools.pingdom.com. So explain it a little bit.
Yeah, so one of the big ranking factors, and Google's just launched another tool that's like this. It gives you some more insight. I'm blanking on the name, but I'm sure you can Google it. One of the really big factors. Yeah, PageSpeed, and they've got two tools. One is called PageSpeed Insights, and the other is something else. I'll have to look up.
GT Metrics is also a good one.
Yeah, so the big picture here is the speed with which your site loads is very important, and you're really looking at a 3-second window. Okay, if your site takes longer to load than 3 seconds, you're losing people at a rapid rate. Yep. On these things, like on the phone, they launch faster or slower depending on how the site was constructed. So one of the things that you should do, this is on Pingdom. You can go and put in your site, and you'll see relative. And the reason I love this tool is because it gives you the relative, right? I don't know if 3.7 megabytes is a good thing or not because I'm just a lawyer and I don't understand this. But I do know that relative to, in this case, justice.org, 2/3 of all websites out there are faster than justice.org, right? For us, in the PI space, we're really looking to push the top 10%. So we want our sites to be faster than 90% of the sites out there, and we work really hard to make that happen. This is a major ranking factor, and it's especially a ranking factor with the phones. So the problem with this tool is it doesn't give you okay, what should I do now? Do we have is our code sloppy? Are we on a slow host? Is our host located in Uzbekistan, and it takes a long time literally to get that information from there? Like there's 1,000 reasons this could be a problem, but this will tell you whether or not you have a problem.
So from what I understand, Google will rank your site higher if your site is faster, and it will hurt your site if it's slower, correct?
Absolutely, 100%. Yep.
Right. And one of the big things that I use this tool for, that we use it for, is if you have a really high page size that you see here, you can scroll down this report, and it will show you what are the biggest items on your page taking up space. So if you have a huge headshot of yourself that's 7 megabytes from the photographer, you want to compress that down to 200 KB because it's so unnecessary, and it will hurt you a lot.
Right.
All right, so this I never saw. So this is Screaming Frog.
Oh, Screaming Frog, woohoo!
All right.
I'm glad we have this slide. So run Screaming Frog. We already talked about it, but this is the type of stuff that you can find. In this example, you can see here a whole bunch of pages that don't have an H1, right? And so there's a bunch that have no H1. You have a bunch of duplicate H1s. You have a bunch that are too long. You have a bunch that have like extra H1s. So if you're nerdy enough to get in and understand what an H1 is, or a page title, or meta description, get in here, audit your site, and this can literally, you could run page titles, H1s, and meta descriptions, and make a list of all the pages that you have that need on-page work, and you're off and running. And if you're on WordPress, you can go edit that yourself. The other thing that this is really good at is finding multiple mistakenly generated duplicate pages on your site. So, and I don't have the example up here, but you could have an example of where you have the dub version and the non-dub version. You could have an example of where you have, on one page, it's like capital CONRAD for Conrad in the URL, and the other page, it's lowercase Conrad, right? So there are lots of ways to screw up your website unintentionally, and this can find a lot of that duplicate content.
Got it. And just for the less technical savvy attorneys listening in, so it's very important that your pages all have titles and H1s, because if you're trying to rank for a keyword, for example, Social Security, disability, lawyer in, let's say, Miami, Florida, it's very important that that keyword search phrase, long tail keyword, whatever they call it, is in your title of your page, H1 on your page. H1 just means it's really big on your site, so Google's robots will see, oh, we're going to put more emphasis on this keyword. So it's very important that you have this on your page. So make sure you do this report. And this is Google Analytics again. So what is this one on page work?
Yeah, and so what I would do here is this is a look at just a case study of where we have run that Screaming Frog audit, and all we've done is made sure that the H1s and the page titles make sense, and we saw a huge bump in their traffic, right? So their traffic goes up 62% just by adding H1s, just by making sure they're not duplicated, just by doing that Screaming Frog work. In some cases, if you've got it totally screwed up, you make a really simple change, and all of a sudden your site starts performing. So it works.
So something as simple as that will boost your traffic by 60%. It could, and your rankings.
It could. I mean, I frankly cherry-picked a shining example here, right? We do this all the time, and it's, probably this is our best example of where we had a massive impact.
Right.
But this is really easy stuff, low-hanging fruits that really works.
Okay, cool. And the next one, having multiple domains and websites. Okay,
yeah.
Let's see.
Okay. So,
are we getting into exact match domains? Like everyone's going to buy all the domains and think they're going to get traffic?
Yeah. So a lot of lawyers, you guys went a little bananas on buying domains, and 7 or 8 years ago, this really worked, where it would be like, okay, I have yellow iPhonecover.com, right? And that would help me rank for yellow iPhone cover, right? And that was called exact match domain. And there was a algo update, I want to say, that went out in 2014, give or take a year, called EMD, which was exact match domain, where that no longer works. A lot of you are continuing to run multiple websites. And my overriding perspective here is that every time you have another website, running 2 websites is more than twice as expensive as running 1. Okay, and marketing 2 websites is more than twice as expensive as running 1. And so you are much better consolidating all of your efforts onto one very well-performing domain than paying to upkeep and market multiple websites. So we have, in my extreme example right now, we got a client who's running 38 different domains. He's got 7,000 pages spread across those 38 domains. I want to say, and I don't have the data totally right here, I want to say 32 of them have gotten less than 10 visits a month over the last 6 months, right? So they're not doing anything, but this guy's dropping a ton of money running all these different websites, and it actually hurts, right? Because now the search engine's like, is this website belong to the firm or is it that one? I just don't know. And it feels like he's trying to game the system, which the search engines clearly know, and so it's very expensive and ineffectual. Putting a blog, for example, as a different domain, take all of the links that go to that blog and take those links away from your primary website. And your primary website is what gets listed in the Google local results, right?
Yep.
And links are the major thing that will get you over the top to showing up in the Google local results. So why would I take all of those links and put them on a completely separate domain when what I'm really trying to get are people who are looking for what I do in my area coming to my website and calling me? It just doesn't make sense.
Right. So the only reason someone would have multiple domains, you're saying that would be okay, these are just simply forwarding it because maybe someone might have a typo, they might mess up the name. That's fine.
Yeah. So you can forward something. We have one client who has multiple domains, and they run, I think I've got this right, they run DUI defense and they run domestic violence. Okay? And those two things are so incongruous that a prospect may be turned off by one of those sites, right? And I get by both of those things being on the same domain.
Right.
So that's a good reason to have them separate. But it means they pay me more than twice what they would if they were just running one site. And so it's very expensive, but in their case it makes sense. But for the most part, I was talking to someone the other day. They were a trusts and estate lawyer, and they had another site for pet trusts and estates, right? Like, so literally, how do I take care?
Way.
You had your dog up here. Where's your dog? You had your dog in here earlier. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. That is A, a happy dog, and B, this is a tech savvy group when they have their dogs at work. But he was like, I've got another website for my pet trusts and estates. And I was like, listen, Mark, there's no way that you want to market a completely separate website because there's your things overlap really well. And it's not going to be like someone's like, oh, these guys do pet trust, therefore I'm not going to hire them for my own trust estate. It just makes them look more expert and more specific as opposed to less.
You know, it says a lot about you, though, that you're not just saying, oh, yeah, let's have all these websites. It will be double the cost. You know, you're very honest with your customers. I like that.
Well, the problem is, and so what I find, and this is where I get annoyed with my industry, is people who sell websites like you to buy websites, right?
Yep.
And so, all right, if one website is good, 2 is better, and 10 is amazing. It doesn't work like that anymore.
Right.
It just doesn't work like that.
So what is this slide about backlinks? So obviously building backlinks is good as long as it's done properly and white hat.
Yep.
So these are free resources to get backlinks from?
Yep. These are 3 sites that will give you a free backlink. They're all directories. The first 3 are all through Justia, Tim Stanley at Justia. You claim a profile there. Backlinks from those 3. La-di-da, these guys are a small directory. I love them. They're kind of they're young and aggressive and great resource. Lawyer Legion is another one that we use. There are places where you can get free backlinks and directory listings. Maybe it's your local bar association. Maybe it's your local chamber of commerce. Maybe it's where you sponsor the local theater group, right? Get the backlinks there. Find places where you're already active in the community and say, hey, listen, I'm on your board. I do this for you. I've contributed that, whatever it might be. Can we get a link to our site from your supporters or sponsors page, whatever it might look like? Do that and ask for them because the backlinks are so important. Find the easy ones to get and nail it.
Right. Right. So I don't know if it turned you even realize how important this is. So for everyone that doesn't have this screen in view, flip to the screen right now, take a picture of it with your phone, take a screenshot, write it down. And while you're doing that, I'm going to explain how important this is. Google wants to see that you're getting a lot of backlinks from other sites linking to your site, meaning that, oh, a lot of people are linking to the site. It must be resourceful. So they're going to help you increase the traffic on your site by ranking you higher. So just write this list down or take a picture on your phone and have your paralegal or someone go to these sites, create a profile, and you will have a link going back to your site, which Google will see and help rank you higher. So it's very important. This list is really good. I never knew this list existed. Very cool. And there's more, obviously. We have to look for them. So content is king. I remember asking you, should this title be crossed off? And you said it should. So why?
Right. So this is another... I'll call it for what it's a lie that we've been telling you guys, right? The marketers, this is what has happened in general. A law firm will hire an SEO agency or a website company or whatever it might be wrapped up in marketing. And 12 months later, the law firm will be like, hey, we're not getting phone calls. This isn't working. What's going on? And the agency will say, that's your fault. You need to write more content. And if you only write more content, you will get cases, I promise. So the law firm's like, okay, and they go and they write content. We say content is king, content is king. You've got the whole long tail search. You need to write for the long tail. You need more content, more content, more content. There is not a paucity of legal content on the web right now. Okay, and I wrote a post on this recently, but I used this example. If you are looking for a gay or lesbian car accident lawyer in any city in the country, there are gay-specific lawyer directories out there, right? Like that content exists. It's already out there. So putting up another page that's saying, I am a gay-friendly lawyer in the car accident space is not going to do anything for you. The content's there. It's deciding which content is actually effective, right? And which content is generating traffic and which content is ranking and which websites with the content are actually making the phone ring. So what I'll recommend, and I can walk you through how this works, you'll remember that earlier, this graph is an example. I'll show you what this is, and then I'll tell you how to figure out where you are on the graph. We looked at, in one of the earlier slides, SEO landing pages in Google Analytics. If you look at the bottom right-hand corner of that report and look at the last 6 months, you will find the number of pages on your website that have generated SEO traffic over the last 6 months, right? And let's just pull this out of the air. Let's say that that number is 100, okay? And then if you look at the number of pages that you have on your website or that Google knows about, and the easiest way to do that is to do a site colon search. You just do site, S-I-T-E, colon, and then your website, without the www, just your website. That will give you the number of pages that Google knows about on your website. And then you divide that number, okay? So you essentially say, okay, the number of pages over the last 6 months that generated traffic was 100, and the number of pages on my website that Google knows about is 1,000, okay? That means that 10% of your pages are generating traffic. So why would you start spending more time and money writing more pages? They're not doing a damn thing. And what you'll find, and what I found, and I've got an updated graph of this, but this is actually a bunch of our clients and where they fall. The guys in the top left-hand corner, 90% of their pages are generating traffic, right? So write more content because it's working. Conversely, the guy at the bottom right-hand corner, less than 1 out of 5 of his pages is generating traffic. So why is he writing more content? The likelihood that that content is actually going to generate any traffic is frankly less than 1 in 5, right? So do this and figure out whether or not you should be spending money on content. Sometimes content's really effective, and for some of our clients, they can actually support more content, so we write more content. Some of them, you put out more content, Google's not going to look at it, let alone actually send people to it. So I find by and large, most websites in the legal space have too much content as opposed to too little.
What I've realized that a lot of attorneys, they always hear, oh, you have to have a blog, you have to blog. And they get into it for a few days, they put up 10 posts, they get nothing out of it, and they just give up. So it's better just don't even do it, give it to a professional, do it if you want it, if it's going to help you at all.
Well, so the blog's a great example. And for me, a blog is just another form of content, right? It's just another way of talking about words on a page. If you can write blog posts that are real, let me give a great example. You're an immigration lawyer. There's stuff you can talk about today going on right now, right? Great blog material, great link material, great people looking at this information, great. Conversely, you're a car accident attorney writing about the motorcycle accident that happened on the corner of 4th and Main last week. No one's looking for it. Who cares?
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Wait, which one? This is Snapchat stories?
So this is a Snapchat story, and some of you may be familiar with this. And I use these two examples. We had a client who sued Snapchat because a lady was Snapchatting while driving and ran into someone who ended up in a wheelchair, right? Right, big story, big opportunity, and we essentially approached this from a PR perspective, right? And we were able to reach out to people who are interested in distracted driving and generate a lot of links. After we did that, and that is the second story, right? After we did that, the guys from the original story called us, and they were like, hey, we did this. We had a Snapchat lawsuit as well, and in fact, in our case, there were 2 deaths or 3 deaths that came out of that. Which, I mean, this is tragic stuff, but the reality is if you go to the next slide, because that first story, the original story, had done nothing from a link building outreach perspective, nobody linked back to them. It was a non-story. Conversely, because we were really aggressive about the PR and link building and social media with the story for our client, they were able to generate links from a just ridiculous volume domain. And that is now, and what you need to understand if you don't understand the importance of links, these links now are so powerful at generating your whatever practice area they're working in right now within personal injury, right? So this is not about getting more Snapchat cases. This is about getting yesterday's fender bender case. And these links last forever. It's an asset that stays with a firm, with a domain, and you need to be thinking about link building. And frankly, doing this right is very difficult. We don't get it right all the time, but 80% of the time we'll do a link building campaign that falls on its face. 10% of the time it does okay, and 10% of the time it takes off like this one. And again, I'm cherry picking our best successes.
Yeah,
but
this is crazy.
Link building is amazing when done right. And my bias is most agencies don't even, it's so hard that they don't even do it.
Yeah, it's very difficult. So advanced link building works. So that previous example you showed, you're showing basically an 83% traffic increase. Wow.
Yeah. So like what you'll see is, and this is what this is actually maybe the most valuable slide in the whole deck. You'll see, again, I'm looking at Google Analytics. I've segmented by organic search, and what you can see is every time we do a link building campaign, you get a persistent and immediate impact in your inbound search traffic, right?
Yep.
You can't do any better than that.
Yeah. When you see that spike initially, but then it just keeps it keeps growing. That's the best part about it.
That's exactly right. And I wrote a post on this. My bias is this is a persistent and it's a persistent and immediate impact. It's like that is the golden bullet.
Right. So what is this slide? Creative content you can, what is it exactly?
So link building is really difficult, right? And your goal here, the reason I threw these out here is these are some of the links that this example did. And I'll walk you, I've got a whole 2-hour presentation on getting creative around link building. I'll use this as one really good example. The links on the left were links that we were able to generate for this law firm from these different domains. Now what we did in this case, this was a lady who was fired because she was not married. She worked at a Christian university and she got pregnant. She gets fired, right? And so typically a law firm at best will issue a press release around this, and usually they won't even do that. And so maybe it gets picked up, maybe it doesn't get picked up, whatever it might be. But what we said is, okay, there's a bigger story here, there's a bigger audience here, there's more that we can do than like pregnancy discrimination lawyer Portland, right? So what we did is we created a petition for her to be reinstated and to be rehired. And we took that petition and we put it on her attorney's domain. So then we were able to take all of the women's groups out there who are online and active and say, hey, listen, this is a horrible story. Here's the petition for her to be reinstated. And by the way, if you could push this out to your members, that would be great. And some of them pushed it out to their members through links. And those links pointed to the petition on the lawyer's website. And A, we were able to generate thousands of signatures for the petition. And B, we generated all these links, which continue to help that employment lawyer dominate the markets in which they are.
So smart. That's crazy. Very good strategy. So
and here's the thing. Sometimes it doesn't work, right? Sometimes it doesn't work.
Right. So for everyone that has the screen in the background, you want to flip to these next 2 or 3 slides. We got some very interesting images that I'm pretty excited to hear about. So this one is an image of a bunch of assault rifles, it looks like. Yeah.
So, I mean, there is so much content that the legal industry can write about right now. You know, take a side on assault rifles. Take a side on gun control, right? What's the next slide? And talk about this and talk about it from a legal perspective, but get involved here. What's the next slide? Marijuana, right? If you don't think there's a lot of people on the web who are really interested in marijuana and how the world is changing marijuana, medical marijuana. I mean, so we now have a little marijuana-specific area of what we do because marijuana is so big. So I literally have a marijuana marketing expert here for the world of the legal marijuana world, right? And so this is huge. It's really big, and there's a lot that you can write about. Okay, this gets very serious, right? This country kills black men indiscriminately in many cases. Get involved. Why? And so this is kind of an extreme example, but why can't you be the criminal defense law firm that watches what your police department does as it pertains to the Black Lives Matter movement? Why can't you be that? Why can't your blog, your website, have a component on it about we are holding our local police force accountable for what they do, right? And I'm sad to say that there's a constant stream of news items around this, but there is. And why can't you be that watchdog? And that takes you from I'm a lawyer behind a bunch of books with the scales of justice and white columns, right, to I really, really care about Detroit, Boise, wherever you might be. I am part of your community. I understand what's going on. I don't trust the police. Or, I mean, you can take this on the other side. Why not be the lawyer that talks about the great things that are happening with your local government? Like, there's so many angles to this, but we haven't seen this. What are you guys doing? I'm speaking next week at American Immigration Lawyers Association, right? And I'm really excited for this. Yeah, because there's nothing hotter than immigration right now, right? Where are we? Take a stand, be there, have a voice, get involved. I went down to, I was flying out to Salt Lake on Monday. I flew out to Salt Lake City. I think it was Sunday night. I did a session in Salt Lake with a Salt Lake bar on Monday. Went through the Seattle airport. There's a whole bunch of lawyers there helping people who may be deported, who didn't know what their legal status was. Nobody knew, right? Be that voice. Be that voice publicly. Be that voice on your domain. Make this a part of who you are. Sorry, I get kind of really – sorry, go to the next slide. I mean, you can walk through these inspiration slides, but there's so much here. Cheap technical link building. So this is the way we go about doing this. This is a kind of a difficult process, but I will give you the punchline, and how you go about actually finding these old links is different. Find old domains. Find old URLs that you used to have that had links pointing to them that are now 404 pages. And that means you're not getting credit for those links. Find those pages and redirect them back to the appropriate pages on your website. We go through a really complex way to do this, but you've already got the links. You've already earned the links, and you've forgotten about them. Let's make sure that you get credit for those things.
And how do you redirect them? You have to put up your old site back up?
I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it. We use typically 301. There's some other ways depending on what you find. Like, you might find an entire website that you've abandoned that you may want to use 301, depending on what actually the link profile. Maybe you want to create a new page on your site that mirrors the content that used to be there. It depends a little bit, but there's a lot of ways to do this right. And frequently, be careful. If you're using a website design company, frequently, if you do a redesign, they will screw up and change all the URLs, so you'll lose everything pointing to those old links. So we do this all the time, where we call it janitorial SEO, where we go up and clean up those messes. Because you had all these links, now they're gone.
Yeah, that's the worst. All right, when Harry met Sally. Okay, so what's this?
So this is, you guys, well, for those of you who are in my age demographic, you'll remember the great scene from When Harry Met Sally, where she was faking it in a deli in New York. And this is the concept of faking office locations. And a lot of you, and this becomes really important with local results, but the map results have become a really big deal. And so a lot of you will pretend to have a larger geographic footprint than you actually do. And you spend, you buy a post office box, or you buy, we literally, this is not a client of ours anymore because I don't approve of this. The guy's brother or cousin or something had a chain of car washes, and there was a law firm located in every single one of those car washes, right?
And he was doing that to get higher rankings on Google Local and getting the postcards every week. Oh my God!
Exactly.
Crazy.
Exactly.
Crazy.
And I have to say this: that the caveat here is this does sometimes work, and I hate it, but it does sometimes work. We don't do it. We don't endorse it. In fact, we burn offices for competitors that we find to be fake. That's sadly a large part of what we do. But I would not recommend this. It will not work for long.
Okay. Interesting. And local reflected online.
So this is the local concept, and what local means is really important. This is an example of a photograph a friend of mine took when I was with him on San Juan Island. This is taken from the shore, right? This was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had in my life. We watched this pod of orcas swim by and breach for like an hour. It was just unbelievable. Anyway, my buddy had this really expensive camera. He grabbed this picture, and I now have this as my Facebook background. You can do a lot to demonstrate to someone that you are local with imagery. So you don't have to go over the top with Chicago personal injury lawyer, right? you can really say that I'm a local person using imagery. And we have done photographs in front of, and frankly, Scorpion, the website development company, they do marketing. They pioneered this. They're the big box provider that really pioneered this. And all you do is you thump a very, very localized picture, and ideally you're in the picture, as the background of your website, right? And immediately this says, okay, these guys are near me. This is a really important thing. And so you can communicate that local feeling with imagery better than you can with anything else. And so look at the background of your website. And if you got a bunch of leather-bound books, you're just looking like every other lawyer in the country. If you have yourself standing at a home plate in Wrigley Field that everyone recognizes, or Pike Place Market in Seattle, or Bourbon Street in New Orleans, like now it says, I am here. I am part of who you are.
I like that. I like that a lot. We're going to put palm trees all over our website now.
Totally, palm trees, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what? Yeah, what's this? Moving.
If you are moving, and this happens all the time, you need to, and this gets into the local. This is actually so difficult that I actually might recommend hiring someone who uses these tools on a regular basis. You need to use both Yext, and I suspect that my numbers here are outdated at this point in time. You need to use two tools to update your directory listings, right? So all of the places that your firm used to be listed on, you need to essentially say, hey, we're no longer at 7 Main Street, we're at 12 Elm Street. And I would use both Yext and Moz to do that, and I may actually even hire someone to do it because it is a pain in the neck. But use those tools, don't do it manually, because otherwise it'll take, I don't know, 100 hours.
Wow, okay. And so Moz, I mean, I've heard a lot about Yext. Never personally used it before, but so what this slide shows that it actually does help you, I'm guessing, move things around?
Yeah, so what we did is, this is, if we run through these slides, the next 4 slides, like what we have found in legal. So Moz and Yext are tools, and they do different things, so you really need to work with both of them. They're also tools that you actually need to use. They're not really a set and forget tool. But Moz and Yext will help make sure that your listing, name, address, and phone number, is consistent across directories. That is a major impact of whether or not you will show up in the local mapped results, right? For car injury, Boise. Whether you show up on this map is contingent on whether or not your directory listings are very similar. What we have found is you need to use both of those tools, but it's a price of entry. It's, for the most part in legal, it's not enough. If you don't use the tools, you will never show up. If you do use the tools and you do some other stuff, you may show up, right? So ultimately, if you keep flipping slides, what you'll see here is this is an example of where we use Moz and Yext, but we were also doing other stuff. And so by and large, we were able to increase traffic to sites that were both using Moz and Yext, but we were also doing more SEO work for, as opposed to just like, here's Moz, here's Yext, let's make the tools happen. It's a price of entry, it's not a guarantee.
Got it. Okay, so the cool thing to note is that there's a lot of tools out there that people can subscribe to for 40 a month, 50 a month, but all these things are obviously going to help you get more traffic. They have to be open to doing these sort of things and spending some money to get results a little bit.
Yeah, there is. There is a lot of that, right?
Okay, so the last quarter of our PowerPoint today is going to talk about results-oriented, ROI. So everyone flip to this slide now. If it's in the background, flip to it. We're going to do a quick poll right now, which is, do you track your ROI, return on investment, per marketing channel? So if you are spending money on Google or Facebook or Avvo or any ads, or you go to BNI even, in-person marketing, are you tracking? Or an agency. Are you tracking the results? Are you tracking how many leads came through, how many clients came through, how much money you made, and billable and paid? Are you tracking this stuff? Now, Conrad, before I share the results, what do you think is the overwhelming answer?
So there's 49 people on the call right now. I'm going to say that 2 people think they're doing it, but they're not.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
81% are not tracking the results, and it's pretty much not surprising. A lot of people don't track it because they don't have a system to track it. They don't know how to track it. So it's not very easy, obviously, tracking results. So one of the things that I'm going to cover in the next 2 slides is how you could actually track results with a software. Even if you don't even use a software, you can have an Excel sheet. Just use an Excel sheet or a Google Doc and track the results. If someone calls you, where did you hear about us? Now, me and Connor were talking about this. We were saying, if someone says online, that's not good enough. You want to really ask them where online. Oh, Google? Do you remember what you were typing into Google to find me? These are all really important things to find out. Dig deep. Who cares? Asking 2 more leading questions. It's really important. So this is an example. If you use our software, or if you're going to use our software in PracticePanther, you can use intake forms to track this. So anytime you get a new client on the phone or they walk in, you send this intake form, fill out your name, your phone number, your email, all this information, and one of the questions should be, where did you hear about us? That should be one of the questions on your intake form. Now, the cool thing is, once they fill out that question, the next step is to link that answer to a tag, which is like a group in PracticePanther. So the cool thing is you can run really fancy reports now and say, for the month of January 2017, I want to see all the customers that came from Google Ads or BNI or whatever, and how many did I get? How many leads did I get? How many became paying customers? How many gave me retainers in my trust account? How many owe me money, so they have outstanding invoices already? And how many have billable time entries that I haven't billed them for? But ultimately, you want to look at the last 3 lines, look at the summary of how much money you've actually made. So it's really simple. When you have something like this, you can go to Google at the end of each month, for example, and run a report and say, how much did I spend on Google? All right, I spent $10,000. Okay, it sounds like a lot, but over here I'm showing you right now that you have at least $19,000 that you made off these clients in that month. So the results are there. But if you don't know how to track them, you're just throwing money in the garbage. That's what we always say. Connor, anything to add to this?
Yeah, I mean, this is the key. Once you can get information into PracticePanther, right, and you have it tagged correctly, now you're making a fundamental shift, and this is why I mentioned investment as opposed to cost. You're making a fundamental shift of looking at marketing as an investment because you're looking at dollar numbers as opposed to, where did I rank on Google for this term, right? Who cares? Once you can start to look at this with dollar numbers, now all of a sudden your math starts to get really smart. And if I know that I'm generating these dollars from this campaign, I can literally calculate the ROI, or at the very least my cost per client, right?
Yep.
And that changes everything, because now your marketing isn't listening to people like me tell you you need canonical tags, or you need H1s, or you need local, or you need another blog, whatever it might be. You're not listening to us. You are saying, and I've been doing this since 2006. I have one client, one in all of that time, start a conversation with me that said, Conrad, our AdWords cost per client is X. Our average revenue for those clients is Y. We want to improve that number. I've only once had that. And so what I'll tell you is, with really smart tracking, and I would use call tracking, you need to use your form fills correctly, but you can get much more accurate at filling out that referral source in PracticePanther than asking someone, right? And so a lot of times people will say the internet. Well, where on the internet? What did you click on an ad? What did you do? Like, we want to get really specific. You should have the infrastructure to be really specific about where that is coming from. So whomever's filling out that intake form is actually putting in the accurate thing. And it can be this simple. This is how easy this can get. If you use sophisticated call tracking software, every time the phone rings, it will tell the person who answers, it's called a whisper message, whoever answers the phone, this is from AdWords. This is from SEO. This is from Yelp, although they'll never say this is from Yelp. But this is from, and so now you are telling whoever your intake person is where that lead is coming from, right? And boom, you don't have to ask the question, because it's an invasive, awkward conversation to have, right? Was it a big ad, or was it? So this is so important, and it done correctly could not be that difficult, right? So
let me ask you, so
go.
the call tracking software obviously generates numerous numbers. You put one number on Google, one number on Bing, one number on your Facebook ad. So whenever they call that number, you know already where the calls are coming from, correct?
So we actually do it we take it one step further, but in general, that's the way it works. You know, like typically the way call tracking will work is if someone clicks on an ad from AdWords, they will come to my website and they'll see a phone number that only people who clicked on that AdWords ad see, right? So now I know if anyone calls that number that it came from AdWords. We actually have taken it one step further where we actually do what's called a rotating bank of numbers. So we have, every client's got, 20 to 100 numbers based on how much call volume they get. And that means that we can say if someone dialed this number, and they just rotate, right, regardless of where that traffic came from. So if someone dials this number in the next hour, it was this person who clicked on this ad, and the keywords that they used were those keywords.
Wow.
So we're actually tracking it down to a keyword level. It's not necessary to do that, but it helps us kind of really dial in numbers really carefully.
Right.
But yeah, that's typical. That's essentially how it works. Now let me give one caveat here. Do not input tracking numbers into directories yourself, okay? Because we talked about the name, address, phone number consistency issue. If all of a sudden you're trying to track your stuff on City Search and Yellow Pages and your Google local profile, and now you have 50 different numbers that the search engine see, they're completely inconsistent, you fall off the map. I would rather you not have perfect data, but actually get phone calls than really good data that tells you for certain that you're not getting any phone calls.
Is there any call tracking software website system that you recommend to people?
We use CallRail. I would push CallRail. There are a bunch of other ones. I think there's, to be honest, I would use CallRail. We spent a lot of time determining which company to work with, and there's reasons that we chose them. I, to be honest, can't remember why we've been using them for at least 2.5 years.
Oh, cheap, $30 a month for the basic plan.
Well, so it does get expensive, right? Because you end up paying per minute, right? So you end up on a 2-hour phone call with a prospect, and you're paying. So it's not $30. Beware of marketers, right? It's not just $30 a month, but it's super valuable when as a tool to find out what's working, and it gives you the whisper messages. And if you're really smart about this, it'll feed back those calls into your Google Analytics account. So we've set it up with an API, so we feed that all back into GA. You can do this, and it's super insightful.
Okay, awesome. So then the next slide is about Bing and AdWords, spending money on both. Obviously, you need to be everywhere, so you recommend going on Bing, AdWords, as many as you can if you're tracking it.
So I recommend running both, right? And we pretty much run both for all of our clients. AdWords has the volume, right? And you're going to get a lot more volume. But most people will be like, this is a conversation I have with people. Well, why would I advertise on Bing? There's nobody there. And it's like, you're right. None of your competitors are there driving up the price. So you're not going to get a lot of volume. But again, this is an ROI game. This is not a volume game. And what we're looking for, and I said this at the very beginning, where are those little places where I can spend a little bit of money where that's really effective? Bing can be one of those places. AdWords is going to give you the volume. We're great Google partners, and we have this great thing with Google going on. We spend a ton of money on it on Google, but Bing, no one's there. So have your line in that little pond and be the only fisherman there.
Yep, I agree. And Knots, these are companies to stay away from, I'm guessing.
I've never found Yelp to turn out a positive ROI. Yodel and Reach are two places that are happy to take from our experience, a very high percentage of your cost and put it to their management fee. The Yellow Pages guys love them. The Yellow Pages does work. I think we've got the printed book. But whatever you do, don't buy a package of online advertisers from online advertising from a bunch of people who have background in writing really large books. Don't do that. You can do better. Yahoo Gemini, we've spent a bunch of time trying to spend money on that. It just doesn't work. It's a waste of time. So there are places to spend money. There are places where you shouldn't bother. By and large, I find these not to work.
Got it. And
I'm sure I'm wrong somewhere, but overall I'm not. Day parting is huge. This is very simple. don't advertise when you're not going to pick up the phone. Okay? So don't pay.
Yeah.
If you're like, okay, it's Sunday, I'm watching the Super Bowl, and I'm not going to take a call or an email, don't advertise then. And AdWords makes it super simple to be like, all right, let's say I only want to advertise during office hours. Great. Turn it off when you're not there. Because your conversion rate with somebody who calls at 2 o'clock in the morning is going to be low if you don't pick up the phone. If, however, you're that attorney who will like, all right, hold, right, I'm waking up, okay, I can help you now, how can I help you? Or you have an answering service, whatever it might be, like your conversion rate would be really good. But don't advertise when you're not around to pick up the phone. There's enough people advertising anyway that if someone gets your voicemail, they're calling someone else.
Yeah, very good idea. And this one, pay less for clicks further away from you.
Yeah, so this is the thing in AdWords. So one of the things that we learned from Google, 43% of people make their hiring decision on proximity. Okay? Not where you went to school, not how big your desk is or how expensive your tie is, not whether or not you have latte in the office. How close are you to me right now? Okay? That means that you're going to convert someone who's across the street at a very high rate. You're going to convert them, and lawyers tell me all the time, I'll take a case anywhere, right? I'll drive all over California for the right time. Great. But you know what? They don't want you if you're a 30-minute drive away. They just don't. So that means that your willingness to pay for the click from the guy across the street, you should be willing to pay 3 or 4 or 5 times what it would be if they were a 20-minute drive away. So in Google AdWords, there's what's called radius targeting. You can adjust your bid based on how far away they are from you. And we do this all the time. It's super effective. It just means that the likelihood of converting someone 20 minutes away is like 20% or 80% less than if they're across the street. So you should therefore be willing to only pay 80% less of what you would otherwise for the guy across the street. It's pretty simple.
Very good idea.
But no one does it.
I like it. All right, retargeting is a big one. I know a lot of attorneys probably hear this word in all the conferences and seminars. So go ahead,
So retargeting is a big deal simply because, and for the most part, you're not dealing with brand building in legal, right? There are very few brands that people remember in legal. But someone's been on your site, you can actually put your brand in front of them. And in legal, it really is just becoming a brand. You can't have a retargeting ad that's like, hey, you want to get divorced? Right? Because you don't want that showing up on your computer at home. And so it's very much just a brand building thing. And retargeting works on a CPC basis, okay? Which means you pay when people click on it. So we've actually done things where we will A/B test to reduce the clicks because we don't want to pay for it. We just want the billboard up there, right?
Impressions.
And so you can get those impressions at a very, very low cost. And it's it's a small thing, but it works. It's a great brand building tool if someone's already been on your site.
Oh, it definitely works. People keep seeing you many times. I think there was like a saying that once you see something 7 times, then your mind will subconsciously decide to buy it or go for it.
Yeah.
All right. So what is this?
This is a super awkward conversation to have with your agency. Okay.
Oh, change history. Oh my God, I know where you're getting with this.
You know where I'm going, right?
You haven't done anything in 3 months.
Exactly. So a lot of you guys are paying a maintenance fee on your ad spend. So we charge somewhere between 8 and 20%. If you're paying, some of you guys are paying over 50%, which is crazy, by the way. So different topic. But if you're paying anything, your agency should be doing something. Right? Your agency should be doing something if you're paying them anything. Otherwise, they're just cashing your checks and putting the money in their kids' college fund. So in AdWords, go to View Change History and see if someone's done anything. This will tell you what's happened with your account. We've had some awkward conversations where sometimes occasionally we get hired by a law firm to do an audit of their existing agency, right? And I'll sit in on those meetings, right? Where it's like, okay, agency, let's open up AdWords And by the way, this is your AdWords account. This is not your agency's AdWords account, right?
Yep.
If they don't let you in your AdWords account, you might ask yourself why. What are we hiding here, right? This is your stuff. It's your money. It's your ads. It's your website. So it's yours. If your agency won't let you in here, I would ask myself why. Now, when you go in there and you click View Change History and you see that nothing's happened and you're dropping 20% of $4,000 a month on them, you might scratch your head and say, self, why am I doing this? What are we getting out of this? And the answer is you're getting nothing. You're getting absolutely nothing. It's awkward. It's awkward as hell. And then you'll ask them why, and they'll, but the reality is you need to. A well-run PPC campaign is touched on a regular basis.
Wow, amazing. That's a crazy tip. I did not think you were going to pull that one out. That's a crazy tip.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the things that we've been talking about is marketing as an investment. The way I look at this is a guiding principle, is your marketing, your every channel should generate at a minimum 3x revenue of what you're spending on it. That's your minimum, okay? So that means if you spend $1,000 on AdWords, it better generate $3,000 in revenue, because it means that if you have that 3-to-1 ratio, you're going to work 1 out of every 3 days to pay your agency, your advertiser, whatever. Like, you're working for them. You're not working for yourself. You're working for them.
Sounds like taxes.
So if you can't get to that 3-to-1 ratio, you're working for me. You're like on my payroll, right? That's crazy. You need to be working for yourself. And so if you can't get to 3-to-1, cut and run, right? And if you're testing new things, you can optimize and get above 3, but your baseline, if you're below 3, I would walk away.
Very good.
And so this is the other thing that drives me mad about my industry. We'll get salespeople that'll say, hey, just one client will pay for itself, right?
Oh, I love that.
One client won't pay for itself. One client means that you're working for me again, right?
Yep.
You're working for me, your agency. Don't give me the one. If someone tells you one client will pay for itself, I would run screaming. Absolutely run screaming.
At the end of the day, it seems like it's all about tracking ROI. They have to be based on results. You have to hold your agency or yourself accountable for what you're doing, all your work and effort and time and money. You have to just track the results. I feel like a lot of attorneys think of online marketing and SEO and ads as like a very passive real estate investment. They don't need to do anything about it, but it's kind of active. Like at least once a month, they should be going in, drilling in, getting on a conference call with their agency or going to the reports or running the numbers just once a month for an hour or a month. If you're spending so much money, you should do it.
Yeah, so we run reporting every 4 weeks, depending on your spend, or every 3 months, depending on your spend. If you're not, the other part of this, to be very fair, agencies are expensive, the infrastructure for reporting is expensive, and so you need to have a significant volume of money spent in order to have the infrastructure, in order to be able to afford the infrastructure. What you don't want is infrastructure that costs you $1,000 to evaluate a $500 ad spend, right? Because all of a sudden now your cost is $1,500, not $500. But if you're dropping $90,000 a month on ads, right, you should be looking at this every week. If you're dropping $9,000 a month on ads, you should be looking at it every month. And if you're dropping $900 a month on ads, you should be looking at it every 3 months.
Yeah, roughly. Exactly. I agree. So that's it. Almost done here. So grab bag and afterthoughts. So now you Yellow Pages book again. So let's talk about this.
This works, right? I'm an online marketing nerd. Yes. If you are in a rural area, the Yellow Pages works. And they are so cheap now that from a cost perspective, this is not a bad way to spend money. So
interesting.
Don't throw this out. And I know this just because we've tracked this stuff for clients, right? And the pattern is, if you're in a tertiary city or in a very rural area, this is a thing that works because it doesn't cost much anymore.
How much on average?
No idea. So, but you're
listen,
getting in the back page, the back cover on this used to be like a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year investment.
Yeah.
Now it's probably like $300 or $400. I don't know, but like This goes back to what are the little things that I can do that don't cost a lot of money that have a reasonable return. So this can work.
Right.
Don't throw it out off the bat.
Okay, and then mystery shop, 20 minutes of time. So let's go ahead.
This is a study that we did for the ABA, and we essentially mystery shop. I'm going to get the numbers wrong. Something like 90 law firms, right? And say, hey, I'm Bill. I was in a car accident. Can you help me, kind of thing. Now,
oh my God.
and I've got a whole study on what happened there. 90% of the time, I didn't talk to an attorney.
Of course.
90% of the time, right? And so a lot of you guys have this attitude that my front desk is the
screen calls.
I don't want to talk to these people. Make sure that we vet them really carefully. But by the way, and these were all like legitimately good cases, I think, right? Car accident. We wrote a little scenario. These were legitimately good cases. And yet, 90% of the time, I didn't actually talk to an attorney. And that is 90% of the time where I actually talked to a person. Okay? So 2/3 of the time when we called, we didn't, 2/3 of the time we talked to a person. That means 33% of the time, no one answered. I got voicemail, right? I got a nothing, right? Sometimes you would call and it would just like keep ringing, no voicemail. We had one where it was like, press 7 to talk to leave a message for Bill the attorney. You press 7, it would say, press 7 to talk to Bill the attorney. You press 7, like it was like this horrible loop. What are you doing? So what I would recommend is go buy shoes at Nordstrom. Okay? Go at the end of the day, go to Nordstrom, buy a pair of shoes, and remember your experience there. Okay? And you're dropping $100 to $200 on a pair of shoes. So this is not a big ticket item. Yeah. Remember your experience there, and then go call your office at 5:15 in the afternoon and see what your experience is. Pretend that you are a client and see what your experience is. And I guarantee you, well, I don't guarantee, I suspect your Nordstrom experience will be a lot better than it was for that $10,000 to $20,000 car accident case than when you're trying on a pair of shoes. Okay.
You know, it's funny. I had a road trip with one of my friends recently, and his name is Adam. He's a criminal defense attorney. And I asked him, like, you know, you're doing great. Your firm is growing. What do you do? Any tricks or secrets? You know, any advice? And he said, you know, I talk to my clients. You know, I take every call. And we're literally on this drive, and he gets a call, and he's like, yeah, let me help you out. Let me call you in a minute. I'm going to check out your case. I'm going to look online. I'm going to do more research so I can make a better, you know, judgment here. And he talks to every client. That I don't screen calls. If it's some solicitor, I just ignore them. I block them. You know, there's a really cool iPhone app called Hiya where it can automatically block solicitors. And he's like, that's all I do. You know, I talk to my clients, and they love it. They love that they have my cell phone. They can call me any time of day, even at night. He's one of those guys that he'll work even at night. He's like, listen, I want to work hard. I want to make money, and my competitors don't. So it's easy. What's surprising?
And like you. Like there are extremes of this, right? And that's an issue. Yeah. We had actually the law firm that had the fake car wash. These guys were bananas about follow-up and good experience. Their front desk was compensated, bonused on their ability to have good cases. If a good case came in, the front desk got a bonus if one of two things happened. One, there was a town car picking up the prospect to bring them into the office by the end of the call. Or two, there was an attorney in a suit driving out to meet with that prospect in their house.
Wow.
Right? So crazy, extreme, but they had people getting out of bed at 2 o'clock in the morning to go and talk to a client. Right?
Yep.
Do you want to be like that? Maybe not. But this conversion and this great customer experience, I cannot, you guys are, I talk to front desks of law firms all the time, and they are sometimes extraordinarily rude. And you should know what your experience is when people dial in.
You know, the funny thing is, you mentioned about the car wash. Were clients showing up to these locations and like, this is a car wash?
So this is what happens, and this is why Google hates the car wash example, right? So it's a map, right? I do a search, I'm on my phone, I want to go talk to Bill, the attorney. Oh my gosh, they're right across the street. Oh, it just happens to be very close to that car wash.
Right.
What the lawyer wants is for them to call, right? And be like, oh, I'm not there, let's meet at Starbucks down the road from you, and at 2 o'clock. That's what the lawyer wants. What Google doesn't want is me, who needs to talk to a lawyer, getting in my car, using Google Maps to drive out, and I wind up at a car wash, and I'm like, I'm trying to find, Mary the attorney. Is she here?
Is she around?
Is she around? No, but if you'd like a wax job, we can do that for you, right? Like, that's a horrible experience. And now, as a search engine, now as a user, I'm like, I'm not using Google ever again. They sent me to a car wash when I wanted to talk to Mary the attorney. So that's why they hate this stuff.
Got it. All right, last few slides. Email marketing reality check. What's this?
So the email marketing, in one of my biases is that this has been grossly oversold by frankly marketers. And you'll have what's called the drip campaign. Now, I've done huge email campaigns. I ran email for I had an email dedicated person at Avvo. I had an email person when I ran marketing for Urban Spoon. You need a massive volume of fresh, quality email in order for people to actually make it through the funnel to actually do what you want them to do. You need a massive volume. And by the way, we get a lot of email these days. And there is no way I'm opening up your personal injury tips email newsletter. I'm just not. I'm just not going to do it. So just have a sense of reality of what email can and can't do for you. By and large, unless you have a massive volume of email, you're wasting money. Email compliance is a pain in the neck. Right, getting content for your email is a pain in the neck. You've got unsubscribe lists and resubscribe lists. It is the infrastructure to run email well is a pain in the neck. The effectiveness of email, unless you're doing it at a very high volume, is just not there. I mean, it works for us, right? But we're a marketing company, and just because it works for my marketing company doesn't mean that it works for your law firm.
So here's my question in regards to emails that a lot of attorneys ask. If a client calls and you get their phone number, name, and email address, just from that, because they called in, are you allowed to put them in your drip campaign and start sending them emails for the rest of their life? Let's say I'm subscribed, of course. Are there different rules and ethics per state?
No, it's not by state. I would look at, I don't know where canned spam has gone with this. Okay. So canned spam is what regulates email. Yeah. I believe the answer to your question is no. I don't know. No. I am not certain of my answer here. Okay. I believe the answer is no. You have to proactively sign up for a newsletter, and that's a marketing piece, right? You can send them an email, right? Hey, we've got an appointment at 2 o'clock. Great. That is a transactional email. But to send a marketing email just because they signed up, I don't know. You can see that, like, this is actually where my expertise stops, because I don't do email marketing for our clients anymore because it doesn't work, right? I think the answer is no, but but I'm not certain that I'm right.
Okay. I think someone once told me that they have to opt in. You have to get their approval or consent.
That is certainly how it used to be. I don't know if canned spam has evolved to be more inclusive or less inclusive. I don't know.
Okay. All right, we'll find out. And marketing is an investment, yes, $100 a month, yep. Call tracking at 4 hours a month. So what's the 4 hours a month, your time to check the results?
Yeah, so what we do here, this is an example of a report that we will give to clients, and you should be doing this for yourself, is, and we've talked about cost per client or ROI. You should compare on a regular basis, and this is an example of comparing Q3 to Q4, 5 different marketing channels to see what's working and what's not working, right? What is my cost per client by marketing channel? And in this example, you can see that, take Avvo here. So from Q3 to Q4, right? In Q3, with the exception of direct, our most effective channel here was Avvo. So we put more money into it, right? And you'll see that the cost per client went up, but it was still only $400. So great, let's keep doing that. Conversely, if we had spent $4,000 on Avvo and it hadn't generated a client, well, maybe we stopped spending money on Avvo, right? And so you need to look at, on a regular basis, either your return on investment across all of your different channels. If you can't get to ROI, like car accident, like PI stuff is hard to get to ROI, look at your cost per case, right? Not your cost per phone call, not your cost per impression. Right. Look at your cost per case and have a gut check of whether or not you're hitting that 3x minimum threshold. And if you're not, you're working for me. You're not working for yourself.
Yeah, makes sense. So separate page for separate offices.
This is an easy
on your website. Okay.
If you have multiple offices, right, every office should have its own Google My Business listing, and it should have its own page on your website, and those two things should link to each other, right? And so here's an example of where we took, this is just a firm in Texas. They had multiple offices, and look at the Richardson one, for example. We then separated those pages out, right? So now every office has its own page, and we were able to drive, and I mean, these are small numbers, right? But the volume of traffic coming from Richardson went from 8 to 20, right? Now, is that percentage-wise? Great. Absolute volume, not that great. But now we're literally getting traffic in a place where we have an office where we didn't before. So do that. Separate your pages. Separate your offices into separate pages.
Okay, very cool. And I love this slide. So funny, the imagery. So don't get stuck, don't get chained, don't go to jail with your agency. That's the idea here, I'm guessing.
Yeah, like you should fire your agency if you're not happy. And frankly, and so I'm probably on an extreme side of this. We have a 2-week clause. If you're not happy, go move on. But you need to be on WordPress in order to do this. Otherwise, you really have no mobility, right? So you have to be on WordPress. But as soon as you sign up with me, and I know you're here for the next 24 months, my profitability increases by doing as little as I possibly can for you. Why the heck would you put yourself in that relationship? Have a long-term marriage, but don't have a long-term commitment to an agency. Get rid of them if they stink, right? And on the flip side, as an agency, some of my clients are a pain in the neck, right? So sometimes we're like, listen, this isn't working out. Go somewhere else and be unhappy somewhere else.
You fire your customers.
Long-term contracts in this is a recipe for resentment and disaster and getting taken advantage of. So I would strongly recommend if your hands are tied, get out. The one exception on this is I would not run pay-per-click campaigns for less than 3 months, probably 6 months, depending on how much you're spending. They get better over time because of the way PPC works. But for an SEO agency, like for a website, like why would you handcuff yourself to paying $400, $500, $600, $700 a month for a website for the rest of your life? Right? That's like a car payment. That's like a really nice car payment. So don't do that.
I'm laughing because I don't know if you know this, but it's the same in our industry. So a lot of like the old school case management software companies lock you down to multi-year contracts. They can't get out. And let's say you finally get out of your contract. Now you want to switch softwares, like to us, for example, and you're trying to export your data. No export button. You can't export. Oh, you want your information? That will cost you another $10,000 for our engineers to press one button for you. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. No, it's awful.
Unfortunately.
And law firm marketers do this all the time with content, right? Well, we're not going to give you the content. Or maybe we think it's our content. Well, listen, I've been paying you to write content for the last 4 years, and you're telling me it's your content and not mine? Like, that's garbage. So
you don't own your website. You don't own your website.
Exactly. You need, and the same with case management, right? And you maybe you want to talk a little bit more about this. You need to have that mobility. You need to have that.
Yep.
You need to be in the driver's seat instead of your vendors or your agencies. You need to be in the driver's seat. It's yours.
Yeah. And we're the same, cancel anytime, money back guarantee, trial, no contracts. Like that's how it is nowadays in 2017. It's all cloud and easy. Unfortunately, the old schoolers haven't adopted or changed. So, look at the picture of you, nice and clean shaven. That's what you look like.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
This is, to be honest, this is an old picture. And my wife can't wait for me to get rid of this.
I like it. So for everyone watching and listening, Conrad was very generous to give you his personal email and phone number. Like you said, any questions you have for him or for me, just feel free to reach out. Don't hesitate. So Conrad, a lot of people don't know so much about Mockingbird Marketing Agency. What do you do? How do you do it differently?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big picture for us is we do what works for any individual client. Our primary perspective is to come in as kind of an MBA with a VP of marketing mindset, as opposed to we're SEO people or blog people or website people or PPC people or social media people. Like, we do what works for our clients, and then we really work with them on that VP of marketing mindset, right? What is your cost per client? What is your ROI? How does this work? And we sit down and then it doesn't matter what we do, right? I'm involved in things like tracking the effectiveness of speaking engagements or television advertising, right? And so what our clients really need is that VP of marketing mindset with all the stuff getting done in the background, so they don't have to know what an H1 tag is or screaming frog or canonical tags or href lang. Like, we just kind of do that in the background. But ultimately, it's every quarter, every month, we sit down and have that. Like, if I was a VP, like when I was at Avvo, I would have a monthly conversation with the senior staff. And here's where we are with marketing. This is what we're doing. This is what's working. This is not. You should do that for your own firm. It's basic business.
Right. Okay. Very nice. And so now we're going to open it up for questions. So if anyone has any questions, you can flip to the GoToWebinar page, and you can go to the chat box, and you can just start submitting your questions. We're going to be here for a few more minutes. You have some time? You have a few minutes, Conrad?
Yeah. My problem is I talk about this forever. So, like, I need to be shut down.
Okay, we got time, so we're good. So we have a few questions that came in so far by email. Let's see. Martin asked, how long does it typically take to build a website with your company? So I think we answered that before. You said it's on average, how many days?
It's roughly 8 weeks. We say kind of 8 weeks, give or take 4. Right? It depends on you more than it depends on us.
Okay, right. Because you're pretty much asking them for the content, the images, the changes, and they're just waiting or debating or whatever.
Yeah, so a lot of times, like, we'll deal with like clients who are like, oh, I got to write the content, or I have to get approval for this picture, or so you guys tend to weigh us down. But ultimately, you're really looking at what's typically an 8-week process. We have turned them around in 24 hours, right? So we've had a couple situations where, like, a different agency will pull a site down. You know, like, so we'll jump. We call it pulling the fire alarm, and we'll knock the website out in 24 hours. But that's, you know, an extreme example.
Okay. All right. So Galina asked a question in the chat. This does not seem to work. So tools.pingdom.com/FTP. So don't do /FTP at the end.
Sorry, I'm losing your audio.
Oh, okay. So as far as Galina asked, she said that the website she tried going to for Pingdom didn't work, but she put FTP at the end. So just remove the FTP. The website is tools.pingdom.com. You heard that?
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Wayne asked, can you please describe the difference between the two Snapchat stories?
Sure. Fundamentally, this was a link building exercise for us. And in the first Snapchat story, we knew when the lawsuit was going to be filed. We researched people who were really interested in two things, distracted driving and technology reporting, okay? And I had a list of people who, and this turned into a PR thing, right? I had a list of people that we wanted to talk to who we were it's called an embargoed story. Essentially what you do is you'll find a reporter or reporters who will cover this, right? And then once you get like a major reporter covering it, all the like secondary and tertiary reporters are like, oh, there's this story about Snapchat. Maybe I'll write about it too.
Right.
And so what we did is we identified a short list of reporters. I ended up with someone at CNN who broke the story. And as soon as the story broke, you hit all the secondary and all the tertiary reporters, and you referenced it to CNN story. And as soon as, like, To be honest,
Right.
journalists, young journalists, most of them are young now, are kind of lemmings. Well, CNN's writing about it, so maybe we should too. They take their own spin on it, and you just get this cascading effect. The other story, it had already happened. The lawsuit had already happened. It had been covered in one paper, but it didn't reference the law firm that was involved in the lawsuit. No one wanted to write about it because it was literally yesterday's. It wasn't even yesterday. It was like last month's or last year's news.
Wow.
And so it was a dead story. It wasn't a story. It wasn't a thing. It would be like me writing about Donald Trump wins the election today. No one cared. It was really, I mean, the Snapchat thing was expensive because we did all this PR outreach. We identified people. We had to get stories. We got our lawyer was ready to give quotes. We spent like a whole day launch. It was like when we launched Avvo. It was just a whole day, this launch thing. We're on the phone with reporters. Same thing. Yeah, that's the difference. Just two completely different results for the firm.
Okay, very cool. So William asked a really good question. Actually, I'm also interested in this. He's saying if you're using the call software to make multiple numbers for Google and this, let's say you have hundreds of numbers potentially. What if someone calls that Google number that showed up randomly on your website? It's a brand new number, just one-time use, so you know it came from this ad. And a year or 5 years from now, that number's not going to work anymore, correct?
Yeah, so yes, this is a concern. I think it is a edge case. But ultimately, if you leave your call tracking provider, you kind of lose those numbers, right? So if you know, Jane, the prospective client, writes that down in her phone, and like 6 years down the road, she gets hit by another car, and she's like, oh, I remember I wrote down. Yes, that might go to a pizza company, right?
Right.
Or it might go to a florist, or it might go to, you know, someone's house because you don't have that number. That is a concern. It is an edge case. It is something that I frankly wouldn't worry about. The value of having the data of what's working and what's not working far outstrips the potential loss of Jane 6 years from now.
Right. I mean, I also think personally that if someone ends up becoming your client, they're going to have your email, they're going to have your phone number, they're going to have all this important information about you down the road. They'll find you.
Yeah. But let me not minimize the issue. It's not a non-issue. I just think it's a very, very, very small issue.
Okay. Martin asked a question, what if you don't have a budget to do and launch a crazy big marketing campaign? Should your website still go up until you are ready to do so? So I for sure think no matter what, most attorneys don't have a big marketing budget to begin with, especially solo. So definitely get your website up there. I know you'll agree that there's some, you know, Google does like seeing websites that are online longer period of time. It definitely helps you. You want to get your website presence up and running. You don't want to just wait to do everything at once. You can slowly climb the mountain, correct?
Absolutely. And I'll say this, a large volume of searches are what I'll call vetting searches or branded searches. So you just start out, you don't have a huge budget, but you are active. I'm going to pull stuff out of the air. You're a youth soccer coach, and so you have a network of people, and someone refers a case to you, right? So, okay, you should really call Martin because he's the best guy. What am I going to do? I'm not going to call Martin. I'm going to check him out first, right?
Yep.
So what does his website look like? Does he do what I want? Does he look accomplished? What's his LinkedIn profile? What does he look like on Facebook? Like, I'm checking him out. And those are the searches that are uncompetitive, right? So if someone's looking for Conrad Saam, they're looking for me. And it depends on your name, but like you want to give a very good impression to that person who is vetting you. You can even put an AdWords budget against your name. No one's bidding on your name, right? Presumably, like you're not, unless you're the Hilton in Paris. No one's bidding on your name. And so, you know, you can generate, you can kind of own the results. You can own the experience of someone who's doing an online vetting process for you by focusing on your brand and your name. And I would thoroughly encourage that.
Yeah, I agree. And we have a few more questions from Graham, Howard, Martin, Tina, and Clark. So you guys stick around. We're going to get to them very soon. So the next one is from Graham. How does Google deal with office shared spaces like Regis, where you have 50 different companies in there?
Great. This is a great, difficult, hard answer, and no lawyers like me when I tell them that answer. Like, people get mad at me with this answer, but I will tell you what the answer is, because that's what the answer is. So,
all right.
And I'm going to hijack your question and expand it so you can really get mad at me. The Regis office they do not like. Google does not like, and they know that this is a Regis office, or they know that this is a shared office space, and so they do not like those things. Because frequently what you'll do is you'll rent a post office box there, and now all of a sudden I have an office in XYZ town when I really don't. And again, if I'm Google, the last thing I want is for Mary to use her phone to identify where I am and drive to something that's, I want to talk to Mary. Oh, well, Mary's not here, but she does have a post office box if you'd like to leave her a note. Right? That's a terrible experience. So by and large, in local results, those offices will not show up. And for you guys who are solo criminal defense attorneys working out of your house and you don't want your clients showing up at 3 o'clock in the morning, there is no good answer, right? There's no alternative other than to open up a physical space. And you guys don't like me telling you that, but that is just the way it is, and I can't change that, okay? So there is no good answer to that. The third part of your question that I'm hijacking and expanding is, and this is a real difficulty, it's a change in the algorithm that you should be aware of. A lot of lawyers will be in what I will call shared lawyer space, right? So you're a bunch of solos, you share a front desk, you share a fax machine, and you all chip in to buy coffee, right? You're in the same suite number, right? You have the same address, different law firm names. Maybe you're even competing practices, okay? The latest local algorithm update has and it used to be that 2 personal injury lawyers in that shared office space might show up in the local results. That is by and large no longer the case. So what Google has moved to with their latest update is a shared office, one person from that shared office space in personal injury, or even maybe in the entire building, will show up on the local results, but they're looking for different addresses around the area that the searcher's in, as opposed to 3 or 4 or 5 lawyers in that one specific building. So that is a recent change that has really shaken up the way local has worked recently.
Wow, I didn't know that. Interesting.
And some lawyers hate that too, but like, again, don't shoot the Conrad, right?
Yeah, Graham, don't take it out on us at least. You can take it out on Conrad. So let's see. Next up we have Tina. Is there a difference between signing up for WordPress.com and WordPress.org? So I can answer a little bit of this. You definitely, if you're going to build a website, you do not want to go through WordPress's own hosted platform. You want to do it yourself. Correct me if I'm wrong. You want to go with, WP Engine or other, places that can host your website. And then in their control panel, it's called, you can install WordPress on your server. You have a lot more features and functions and themes and plugins, a lot more you can do. It's, pretty much your own. So that's my answer. Conrad?
Totally agree. You need to control it as much as possible, and installing it on your own domain is the way to control it. Absolutely.
Right. So you can go to WordPress.org. I think you can make an account, but don't install WordPress on your site from there. Go to GoDaddy, whatever, create a domain name. You can even use GoDaddy to host your site, or go to WP Engine. They can help you connect the two, and then you can install WordPress from GoDaddy or WP Engine or somewhere else. Do it that way. All right, Clark, how much does all of this change when you're dealing with individuals that aren't wired? I'm an elder lawyer, and even the adult child caregivers aren't that connected. Any comment or ideas? Okay, Conrad?
I think, so now I'm giving you opinion. This is not based on any data. I think you will have a slower adoption rate the older your clientele is, right? And we even find some law firms dealing with millennials are taking inquiries as texts, right? Right, which to me, I'm 43, like that seems insane. But,
it's pretty cool.
But I'm wrong,
I like it.
Right?
Yeah.
If I'm 24, I'm not going to send you an email. I'm going to text you, and I expect a text back. So on the other end of the I was going to say life cycle. I need to come up with a better phrase. On the other end of the spectrum, age spectrum, you're dealing with elder stuff, and we do find that I don't know. I'm giving you philosophy as opposed to theory. I do think you need to think. Yeah.
Clark says if it makes you feel better, he's 65.
Well, okay, so like I suspect that you really need to think about the way people want to talk to you at an older age as opposed to, like, that conversion looks different. Having said that, especially with elder care, so one of my tips on elder care is you are frequently dealing with a parent, an older parent in a location, and the kids who are making the decisions or very involved in the decisions or maybe hiring the attorney who are not physically in that location. So you have a very interesting local concept. And one of the things that we find is you can do this very cleverly with AdWords or even sometimes with SEO. You can work on advertising outside of your state for services within your state in a very targeted fashion. And so did you see how I dodged your question? I hate being a marketer sometimes. Sometimes we always find a way to talk about something. I totally dodged your question. Sorry, let me answer your question about, like, think about ways you can advertise outside of that location. Now let me answer the question because you asked it. My answer to your question is I suspect it's different, especially the way people want to connect with you. I suspect older people like phone calls as opposed to form fills and especially text. But I don't know that. I can't prove it. I've never, frankly, looked at the data, although I probably have access to the data if I wanted to look at it. And so I will leave you with this tip. One of the things that you should do is make sure that your phone number is easily accessible all the time. And on a mobile device, that means making sure that that is a sticky phone number. So wherever you are on a website, you can just press and hit the phone number. Make sure that that's a functional, sticky phone number. And as a caveat on top of that, be very wary of chat windows. And again, I don't have the data to back this up, but I suspect most elder people are less likely to engage with chat, which may or may not be accurate, but some of the chat pop-ups, especially on mobile, will cover up the phone number. So you have to chat in order to connect. You can't actually talk to someone. And if you're and again, I'm making a blanket assumption, if you are an older person who actually wants to pick up the phone and call someone, and the chat window is blocking my access to the phone number, I may go to a different website. So none of this is backed in data. This is just Conrad's opinion.
He said this is all steering you back to the phone. He actually has a pretty cool number, 888-59-ELDER. It's very easy to remember. I like it.
There you go.
He's doing things right. Very good, Clark. So let's see. Regarding local, from Keith, what about multiple lawyers, same firm, but different types of practice areas?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very common thing, right? Multiple lawyers, same firm, and I'm gonna make, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I'm gonna make the assumption that they are in the same location. But using that, I mean, this is a very classic law firm setup, right? We do a whole bunch of things. We have a bunch of lawyers who do a whole bunch of things. The limitation here, I think I've got this number correct, but I may or may not. I'm in a situation now where I don't get my hands dirty and all this stuff. I think you have up to 5 categories in your Google My Business listing. And so if you're doing 6 very different types of law, that may be limiting. I think that's the case. I would frankly want to ask one of my guys who's involved in this all the time whether or not I'm accurate about that. But that may be one thing. Other than that, like, have at it, right? Just yes, it's a common thing.
Okay. And let's see, Martin asked, oh man, we're both going to bash this so bad. The question is 3 words, Wix versus WordPress. Everyone already knows our answer.
Okay, I'm trying to come up with a good reason to suggest Wix.
Analogy, give me like a nice metaphor. Yeah. I would never recommend Wix.
I would never recommend Wix and Squarespace. Both of them are, and I'll give you, and so the question is why? Like, Conrad, why are you and David just kind of bagging on these two things? Wix and Squarespace make very pretty sites. So I've seen some very beautiful sites on Wix and Squarespace. The underlying technical infrastructure and what you can do with them is limiting. And the better way to think of that is in WordPress, it's kind of unlimited, right? And so I would only go with it. To be very frank, if you want to do it yourself, go drop $19.99 on Amazon and buy a WordPress for lawyers or WordPress for people who don't like the web, and read that book and spend the time to learn how to do WordPress basics as opposed to making a pretty picture with Wix.
Yeah, I'll chime in a little bit. Martin already said WordPress it is, but I'll tell you a little more why. WordPress is very open. It's a very open platform. It's probably the #1 biggest CMS content management system in the world. Hundreds of thousands of plugins and themes and changes and edits you can do. I mean, it's really unlimited, the things you can do with WordPress, unlimited. Whereas opposed to Wix, you're using their infrastructure, their system, and they're controlling it with a few developers maybe. So that's one. You can do a lot more with it. You know, you have like that Yoast SEO plugin we told you about, which is phenomenal. You just have a lot more options. You can grow the website a lot more than with a simple basic website like Wix. I mean, if you have a Wix website, we're not hurting on you now, but keep in mind in the future you might want to get a WordPress developer or someone special to go and help you convert the site over to WordPress because you'll be able to do a lot more with it.
It's also a lot more expensive to fix it after you've started. Like, starting from scratch is cheaper than fixing a Wix site.
Yeah, and just keep in mind for people listening that if someone builds you or you build your own WordPress site, it's really easy to edit the pages yourself. It's like Microsoft Word. You go to whatever page you want, you click edit, and it looks like Word, bold, underline, new paragraph. Like, it's really easy to edit the site once it's done for you already. So that's an easy thing as well. Tina asked, when you're on a limited budget, do you recommend, oh, this is a good one. Do you recommend signing up for the free Avvo subscription for a local listing only, or to sign up and pay for a pro subscription or sponsored listing? So, you know, it's the first Avvo question we had, and you're the pro at Avvo. So come on, guys, give us some more Avvo questions for him.
By the way, and I have a super caveat here. I still have stock, so take that for what it's worth. Definitely sign up for the freebie, right? Avvo, so I spent like 3 years of my life learning how to do name search. We were talking about that name vetting process. Avvo does amazingly well in name search. And at one point in time, I knew more about name search than almost anything else. And they continue to be very good at that. The answer here is the same answer that I would give for any advertising platform. Find out if it works and evaluate it on the cost per client as opposed to anything else, right? Impressions, lookups, click-throughs, this, that, or the other thing. None of it matters if you're not signing up clients. And until you know that Avvo is, like, your job as the law firm is to have the infrastructure and smarts and discipline to determine whether or not it's actually generating clients. And when you find that it's generating clients, game on, right? Do more of it. Expand, like Avvo is very good at geo-targeting, right? So you can be like, all right, I'm just going to target right here where I am. Oh, well, that's working really well. Now I'm going to expand that, right? And your conversion rate's going to drop, but maybe it continues to pay off at the right ROI. Or you throw a whole bunch of money and I'm going to advertise on the whole state, and then you contract it as you find, as you try and dial in your appropriate ROI or cost per client. But you need to look at it, right? And you need to see whether or not it works. And different channels work for different law firms. And it's not like people will tell me AdWords is too expensive. Well, no, it might be too expensive for you, or SEO doesn't work, or Avvo doesn't work. I was mean to Yelp earlier today, but there may be situations in which Yelp works, right? I haven't seen them, but there may be. So you need to evaluate and you need to look at all these channels as individuals and hold your vendor's feet to the fire with the results of, is this turning into a client?
Right, and I'll add some input as well because, you know, I'm always doing certain videos and speaking engagements as well, and people always ask me, should I be here, should I be there, should I be in this directory, whatever. So for my advice, I usually never recommend the free listings. I'll tell you why. Everyone has a free listing. Everyone has a free listing. So if someone's actively searching for a personal injury attorney in Miami, Florida, they're going to find Avvo's directory. They're not going to contact the 374th person at the bottom of the list. They're going to look at the top ones that are premium, that are paid, that are up there. They don't know you're paying. They just think you're the best because you're at the top of the list. The most reviews, you claim your profile, you have a picture, you have reviews, you have endorsements. Go all out in the listing. Don't spread yourself thin on 20 directories. Focus on one or two and be the best in those directories. That's what I always say. Conrad?
So, and it's a reasonable point. What you need, and my answer is Avvo specific. The directories that do well on name search. If you're showing up for a name search on a directory, you want to put that best foot forward, right? And that does involve engaging. Now, there's by definition a limitation on the number of directories. So typically what we find is roughly half of the SERP results include directory listings, right? But if someone is vetting you, on the flip side to what you're saying is if someone looks at your Avvo profile and because you haven't claimed it, they assume that you haven't achieved anything, well, now you've shot yourself in the foot. But the directories that do well, so take LinkedIn, for example. Let's say you have an empty LinkedIn profile. Well, that doesn't help you. You want to have a very robust LinkedIn profile. Same with Avvo. Even the lawyers.com stuff does well on name search. So if it's doing well on name search, I would absolutely put your best foot forward wherever you can. Facebook's another example. Yep. Put your best foot forward. But, you know, having 10,000 directories that have, you know, nothing, that are never going to show anything, that can be a waste of time. It's not like there's tons of directories, right? After Avvo launch, you know, there's probably a new directory every quarter, a new legal directory comes out, or maybe even more.
Yeah. So I have a question because I hear a lot about Avvo, a lot of good things, by the way, about Avvo. I go to a lot of trade shows and conventions, and people talk a lot of garbage about one of your competitors that's very big. They hate them, they don't like them, but I only have heard good things about Avvo. The biggest question I get, though, is I have a really bad rating in Avvo, so I never claim my profile. How do I want to remove it? Do you know about it? How do I get a better rating? So what's your advice for getting the highest rating in Avvo? How can you get the highest rating possible? Claim your profile, step one.
Well, claim your profile and make it robust. Okay? What does robust mean? It means that all the things that you've done, imagine your profile, the Avvo rating is a resume score. Just look at it as a resume score. And so if there are things that you've done that you're proud of that would, you know, if you were to spend a lot of time building out a really, really long resume, what would those things be on that resume? Plop them in there, and that's what I would do. And you know, it's a resume score. That's the only way I would look at it. It's a resume score. Now, the client reviews do not impact your score unless they've changed things. I can't imagine that they have. Peer endorsements will impact your score. So again, it's like a resume. If you had someone endorsing you on your resume who was a well-known person, that's a good thing. So again, think of it as a very, very robust resume score.
Okay, so add everything in there, put the headshot, get endorsements. That's a big one. Is it easy to get endorsements? You just send a friend like, hey, please endorse me, and they fill out a form?
Yeah, so like the endorsements are not all, and again, I can only go back. I'm going way back in my memory here. But an endorsement from opposing counsel is a lot more valuable. And again, like think of it as a resume score. An endorsement from someone who you've been on the other side of the table with is much more relevant than an endorsement from someone who is your employee, right? So, all right, guys, everyone send me a raving endorsement on Avvo, right?
Yeah. Okay, makes sense.
So think about it that way. And again, they may have changed things. I don't know, but I doubt this core has really been shifted that much.
Okay. Martin mentioned, by the way, big PracticePanther fan. Can't wait for the update this weekend. Thank you so much. I hope you like it. And he asked a funny question. Any chance Conrad wants to share the proprietary formula for rankings on Avvo? So I think people think that there's like some crazy formula to get Avvo ranked really high in Google, but there's really, you're not using a formula. You're just good content. Good content. I mean, a lot of pages, a lot of good SEO, a lot of good on-page insights. That's what it takes.
Yeah, I have found by and large that if you ship a bottle of Lafroig Scotch to my office, your Avvo rating may.
It may.
Don't know causation, correlation. I don't know, but you know.
Okay, let's see what else we got here. Martin goes, "How about a case?"
A case. Don't.
Case. Wow.
I
have no shareholders.
Yes, I can get you. I don't know how old you are, Martin, but you may recall the movie where it goes to 11. Yeah, maybe the Avvo rating goes to 11 with a case of Lafroig.
All right, let's see what else we got here. Might be it. Let's see. What is the impact or use of reviews by clients for marketing purposes? Wow, that's a question by Martin again. So I will personally tell you, reviews is number one. It's big, and not just like, whenever people put up like typed reviews on the website, no one knows if they're real people, if they're real reviews. No one really knows. So what I normally recommend, video reviews. Get your customer on a video if they let you to, and post those reviews on your website. So it's one thing for us at PracticePanther, just have a bunch of people writing reviews, great. But if I got you, Martin, for example, one day, hopefully, to give us like a nice video review, we would definitely promote that on YouTube, on Facebook, on our website, on our customer testimonial page. And that's a real review. They can look you up. You can tell them your firm name.
Right.
They know it's a real person. So reviews are very powerful, and they definitely work. I definitely recommend them. Conrad?
So, yeah, and this is sticking with the Avvo theme, the concept of reviewing lawyers online back in 2007 was like mind-blowing. Right, and some bar associations were like, well, you can't do that. Like, well, actually you can write reviews, but you can't express your opinion on the internet.
Right.
Right, and that's okay. So reviews are very, very important. And they're also very hard to get, and they're very sensitive, right? Because I'm probably not going to go on Yelp and talk about how my vicious divorce lawyer just absolutely pillaged my spouse. Right? I'm probably not going to do that. I'm not going to do it if, I got my 7th DUI, and that's not what I'm going to do. So it's very difficult to get reviews, and yet they are very important. I will encourage you to think about the clients that you know that are just raving fans. And you, by the way, so let me step back. You guys do, and I'm honored to work in the legal industry because of this, you guys do amazingly important work. Amazingly important.
Yep.
And people say that, lawyers have a bad name, but people really love their own lawyer, right? I hate lawyers, but I love my lawyer. You do, and there are people who are amazingly grateful for the work that you have done. And never forget that, right? And so asking for those people to reflect that sentiment online is actually not a huge ask. Right? So if you frame it in those ways, I would really think about the great work that you do, the importance of the legal profession as a whole, and encourage you to have, your best cheerleaders are your clients. Your best cheerleaders are your referrals. Find the people who are so grateful and ask. Yelp does not let you ask for reviews, which I think is crazy.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
No, that's against their policy to ask for reviews or incentivize reviews anyway. Yeah, so I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. But reviews are super important. And they're a huge local ranking factor, right? They're a major differentiator in who shows up for local.
Right. Okay, very good. I agree. All right, that's going to wrap it up. If anyone has any more questions, you have our emails there on screen. Feel free to ask away. Conrad, you're the man. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been super fun. I love this webinar, the video thing. I think we're going to do it more often now.
It's good, right?
Personal. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's really awesome. Yeah. So this webinar was recorded for everyone listening, so we will email it to you shortly. You'll get an email. It's also on Facebook Live, but you will get an email, don't worry. And if you ever want to review it, you can look back. And you can also go on Facebook right now to see it and review it. So let's see what else we got here. Okay, that's about it. Conrad, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure, David. Thanks so much.
No problem. Take care. Have a good one.
Bye.